Hey YouTube, Maddie with Motherboards.org, and welcome to our very first user question video. A few weeks ago, we put a request out there to send us your questions so we can try answering a few of them here in a video and to see if it's something you guys like, and also a good chance to give away some neat stuff. So the giveaway for that will close when this goes live. So when you see this, you will not be able to enter that giveaway anymore, and we'll announce the winner back on that in the video description field of that video, and also probably in our next video as well. So good luck to everybody who entered, and thanks for throwing in your questions. It was a great response. So we have picked out of those questions some that I felt were interesting, or something that we got a lot of questions about graphics cards, and tried to lump a couple of them together and to answer some that I thought we had the information to answer or could answer in a reasonable amount of time. So I'm sorry if your question did not get answered, but don't give up hope. I'm hoping this goes well so we can do another one of these, so there'll be more chances to ask us stuff. And also you can ask your question at the Motherboards.org/forums. If you go there, you go to the Motherboards.org forums, and there's a whole bunch of people there that are really great at answering questions. And you can also ask your question in the comment thread here, and I'll scan through and try to see if I can answer a few more questions on the comment thread. So thank you again for everybody who participated, and I hope you enjoy our user question special. Okay, our first question comes from Jameson3080. He says, so I bought an MSI HD 7750 2GB DDR3 graphics card, I assume. Was it a mistake to buy a GPU with DDR3, or since I got it with 2 gig, does it not really matter? So if I'm following with this question correctly, you probably were given a choice between buying a 7750 with GDDR graphics memory, or probably with like 1 gig of GDDR memory, or DDR3. Because they'll give you more memory with these DDR3, but it is slower memory. So whether or not this is going to impact you specifically depends on what resolution you're going to be gaming at, and kind of what game you're playing. So DDR3 memory is going to be slower than GDDR. So GDDR is much faster, so the GPU can grab stuff from RAM a lot quicker and process it and display it. So I would say it will on average maybe cost you 2 to 5 frames. Depending, because not a lot of games need necessarily 2 gigs of memory either. So, but it's not a bad choice, and what's important is that it runs the games at the settings that you have an enjoyable experience. So, take that for what it is, and don't let anybody give you a hard time. Next question. I want to purchase an SSD, and I'm currently thinking about either purchasing the Crucial M4 or the SanDisk Extreme. I did some research, and while the SanDisk has better specs, apparently some people say that the Crucial M4 beats it when it's 120 gig, but at 240 gig, the SanDisk versus the Crucial, the SanDisk would be the winner. So now I might buy the 240 instead of the 120. Now I'm also very uncertain, and I have no idea what decision to make. Do you have any recommendations out of these two, or can you perhaps recommend an SSD that is even better than these two, price quality-wise? Yes. Anytime you're shopping for an SSD, I'll just kind of give you this general advice. When you're shopping for SSDs, there are a few things you want to look at. The type of NAND, which is sometimes you're not necessarily going to know, but like manufacturers like Samsung and Intel, they manufacture their own NAND memory. But the parts that really, really will impact performance is the controller and the firmware. And for a while, SSDs were kind of boring because they were almost all using SandForce if they were in the performance category. Now you have a little bit more variety out there, which is nice. But it does make it hard to compare. But here's another problem with SSDs right now, is that most of the performance class drives are running right up against the SATA 6 wall. So even if these are going to be, one drive would be faster than another, they're all going to start kind of getting limited by SATA 6 and limiting their throughput. So until we have like the SATA Express interface, which will go through the PCI Express bus, you're not really going to always notice a huge speed difference between some of these. That said, if looking between those two, I'd probably go with the Crucial M4, only because I've used some Crucial M4 drives and they've all been really good. In fact, I use a an M-SATA crucial M4 drive for a lot of our small form factor testing. I don't think you're going to go wrong with the SanDisk Extreme either. But if you want some other performance drives to look at, right now probably the highest performing drive out there is the Samsung 840 Pro. That is an MLC, not the 840, which is a TLC. This is an MLC disk, really fast. It uses Samsung's own controller, and they've done a hell of a job tweaking that thing for performance. So I'd look at that. The OCC Vector is also like right behind it. It uses a custom Indelinx controller because they bought Indelinx. So that uses kind of their own in-house controller, and it's also very good. Some people have complained about quality problems with the Vector, so you might want to take some of those into consideration. But other people have great luck with them, and they're also very fast. I personally use an Intel 520 right now. And their 520 240 gig SSD is wicked fast, and not quite as fast as the Samsung or the Vector, but also really fast, really good quality. NAND, Intel's known for making just top of the line stuff. Comes with a 5-year warranty, that kind of thing. So I would take a look at those three as well, but you're certainly not going to go wrong with the Crucial or the SanDisk. So good luck. Let us know which one you decide to go with. All right, so we got a couple of graphics cards questions here, which there was a lot of questions about graphics cards, so it's definitely a good subject for you guys. So this one comes from Anafrask Dragos. I'm Dragos, and I would like some advice about buying a video card. I'm gaming at 1680 by 1050, and at the moment I have a system built with an AMD X4 640 processor, a GTX 650, and 12 gigs of RAM. I would like some advice about the video card that would fit such a system, maxing out games such as Metro Last Light, with Physics On or Crysis 3. I don't want to make such a big investment at the moment. But the 650, you are not going to max out Crysis 3 with the 650, but if you don't want to make a very big investment, there's not a lot of great places for you to upgrade to. So I would say, depending on what your budget is, if you're going to stick somewhere in the $200-ish range, you're going to be around a GTX 660. Maybe a 660 Ti. If you want physics support and you want to not make a huge investment. Otherwise, I would just say sit back, sit tight with what you have until you're ready to do a new machine with a little bit more processing power. And for Amir Mohammed, I just watched your video and I don't know what to buy, as there are lots of graphics cards out there. My budget is $200. I have an 18.5-inch single monitor, 1366 by 768 resolution. I intend to use it to play Crysis 2, Crysis 3, Battlefield 3, The Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012, and that stuff. I'll also use it for video productions using After Effects. What graphics card do you suggest for me? At 1366 by 768, if you are actually going to game at that resolution, you do not need much of a graphics card, to be perfectly honest with you. You could probably get by with what the last guy has, the GTX 650, would be more than sufficient. But assuming you're going to get a better monitor at some point and you want to prepare yourself for 1080p gaming or high-res gaming as high as you can go, what I would do for you is probably look at like an AMD 7870. Normally you're in like the 7850 territory at $200, but I've been seeing a lot of rebates lately on some 7870s that'll put you right around $200, and that'll give you some headroom to certainly play anything you want at that resolution, and also give you some gaming chops if you bump up your screen size a little bit. Okay, so the next question comes from One Cool Cow. I am not exactly sure what to look for in a good motherboard. Of course, a reputable manufacturer always helps, but are specific numbers and characteristics to look for? As you guys are called Motherboards.org, I would imagine that you may know a thing or two about this area. Thanks. Any help is appreciated. Picking out a motherboard, it can be a little daunting. There's a lot of things you have to consider, and a lot of things that manufacturers don't always kind of line up, and a lot of the comparison tools, even on a lot of the manufacturer websites, when you start comparing stuff, they use different names for like the same thing, and it makes it really hard to compare. But let me give you a little bit of general advice, which is you need to look for the socket support for the processor you intend to use. So if you're buying, for example, like an Ivory Bridge part, you'll want to, buy LGA 1155. You'll want to note how many ports it has. So lots of motherboards, some will have PS2 legacy ports, some will have USB 3, some will have, and some of those will be determined on which chipset you go to. But they cram all kinds of ports and features. Some will give you, legacy FireWire support. Some will give you 2 USB ports as opposed to 6, and all that kind of stuff. So you want to take a look at those. You want to look at the whether or not it has SLI, like dual or triple video card support. So if that's important to you, you'll want to make sure that you get one that has the slots you need. You'll also want to take a look at the construction and the durability, and the brand has a lot to do with it. But sometimes they'll specify a certain amount of copper that's used, and you'll want to take a look at what kind of overclocking support it has, because that'll depend on what kind of transistors they use and how tolerant the board is of heat and that kind of thing. So that's kind of a rough overview. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different things to consider, but I hope that kind of gets you on the right track. But one thing that I'd recommend you do, though, is maybe post that question here in the discussion and see if we can get some other people to kind of give you some other cool advice and things to look out for. So this question comes from JSDart123. Do you like cheese? I do. Cheese is very good. This question comes in from Paco Zavala. My question, is there a program that uses all cores of a motherboard that supports 2 processors? Yeah, there are. Certainly not gaming, because the program has to be written to support massive parallel instructions. Most of the programs that really will do that across 16 or more threads are going to be in the scientific research area. They're going to be things like CAD and engineering and design, and I would have to go back and look. I don't even remember if Premiere Pro will scale across that many threads, but some of the video production suites, I'm sure, will probably span that. But you have to also remember the program only has to be designed to write out to many threads and to do things parallel. But the host OS chooses how it distributes that load to which processor. This is a good one. So Windows 8. What are your opinions on Windows 8? Do you like or dislike it? I actually wrote a review on Windows 8, which I'll put a link to that in the video description if you want to take a look at my actual review of it. And I didn't go into the nitty gritty, but I did kind of just talk about how to look at Windows 8. And I look at Windows 8, it is like Frankenstein of an OS. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's like a mobile OS and it's a desktop OS kind of smashed together in very funky ways. And I think Windows 8.1 is going to go a lot of ways to smooth some of that out. But I look at Metro when I'm on a desktop or like a laptop or anything with a mouse and a keyboard or anything with a precision pointing device. I treat Metro like a dashboard. I'll hit my Windows key and I'll see how many emails I have, or I'll check the weather, or, and it's a good program launcher. It still supports all the same functionality that I use in Windows 7. And in Windows 7, I didn't really use the start menu that much. I just pretty much hit start and typed in the program and hit enter because the start search worked really well. So I don't dislike Windows 8. I've also been playing with a lot of tablets, and I love the modern UI on tablet devices and on touchscreen. So I think Windows 8 is actually kind of cool, and I think Microsoft is onto something by giving you a platform that is malleable to different input paradigms. And this is kind of what I talk about in my review: is that a mouse is a tool, a keyboard is a tool, a trackpad is a tool, a digitizer, stylus is a tool, and your finger is merely a tool. So in one OS you have a platform that can handle. It has an interface, a UI, if you will, for precision pointing apparatuses like a mouse and a keyboard, and for the type of work that would go in with that. And then you also have a user interface that is highly customized for this tool, which is your finger. And with a lot of the devices that we see coming out towards the end of the year, how like laptops are becoming more like hybrids a lot, and you're going to see a lot more products like Lenovo's Helix, which is the computer crammed into like a tablet that snaps into a base, and then it kind of blurs the line. Is it a laptop? Is it a tablet? And it is kind of both. And you have an OS that works in both of the scenarios when you're docked and when you're not docked. And I think that's kind of neat. The next question: what was your first build? I like this question. Okay, so my first build was it kind of depends on what you think of my first build. So I didn't technically build my first desktop PC. It was brought home. But it was the first PC that I tore into and upgraded, and it was a 46DX250. It had, originally, I believe it had 8 megs of EDO RAM. I mean, we're going back in time here. But anyway, unfortunately, I don't have that one anymore. But I do have, because I do remember upgrading the processor in that machine. It was running an Intel 46DX250, and I picked this guy up, which is still with the machine, but inside here I actually have the original 46DX2. And I found this in the basement because I still have it. This is an AMD. This was before they really even talked about AMD, so it's called Evergreen Technologies. But it's an AMD processor that was designed to basically swap out in place and upgrade the 46DX2 line. So if you had the DX266, you'd end up with a processor clocked at 133. And if you had the DX250, you ended up with a 100 megahertz processor. It has the little tool to pull it off. This is the original 486 DX250 that was in that original build. So that was my first PC and the first time I did any upgrading and that kind of stuff. And that was a long time ago, as you can tell. Probably 1993, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, I also have the first PC that I built from the ground up, which was a P4. It was the first original P4, but it is a P4 first gen. It was the kind that came with a RAM bus, if you can remember that. So people give RAM bus a hard time, and yeah, RAM bus was really, really expensive. But what people forget about RAM bus is that it was ultra, ultra fast RAM at the time. And what do you know? I actually still have this particular machine. So this is a P4 1.5, if I remember correctly. Originally, I had 64. The processor actually came with 64 megs of RAM bus, RDRAM, but I also had, it ran with 384 for a very long time because RAM bus was really expensive, and of course RAM bus kind of died. And eventually I would manage to snag another 256 pair, so a couple 128s. So I eventually had 512 megs of RAM in it. But I used this machine for a very long time. It's kind of beyond its useful stage now, but I also had a started with a 40 gig hard drive, which died about 3 years later, and a NVIDIA GeForce 2 GTS graphics card, which actually had 3D. Last time 3D was a big deal. Actually had 3D glasses in it, and with CRT monitors, if it supported a higher refresh rate, you could actually do stereoscopic 3D gaming, which I did a little bit, which was kind of fun. It worked okay, not great. And it is built with an Asus P4T motherboard. So that is my first PC. Okay, next question. Why do most case manufacturers use mostly black, gray, or white cases? Why don't they experiment with other color schemes a lot more, especially gaming cases? There's a pretty wide variety of cases out there. So this question, I do see where the question is coming from. And if you look at the case market, I can answer this question pretty easily. The fact of the matter is that most people, when it comes to PCs, don't oppose to black or white. So when you're going to build a case, if you're going to say, I don't want to get stuck with a lot of inventory of green cases with yellow polka dots, they tend to play on the safer side, because if nobody likes that color, no one's going to buy it. But there are some case manufacturers that do experiment with colors, and there are a lot of services after the fact. In fact, I'll link to a couple in the video description that will do paint your case for you, and do great professional jobs. It's a little bit of money, but if you go to Newegg or Tiger and you start looking at the various cases, there's a lot of gamer cases out there with some color schemes. So it'll be usually the more best-selling SKUs, and sometimes inventory may be limited. They'll build them in limited runs on the cases that last a long time. But generally, when they launch a new case, they don't know how it's going to sell. They're going to go with black, maybe white, or maybe some kind of titanium gray, because 80 people will buy a black PC. more people might buy an orange one. That's just kind of how it goes. So just okay. This question is a long one. I'm going to try to truncate this down. It says, "Hi, I'm Aiden from Istanbul, Turkey. I'm a university student here and a subscriber of your YouTube channel. It's helpful to do this. Laptop qualified people here to reconfigure laptops. So he wants to replace the hard drive with an SSD and installing the hard drive into the optical drive slot. After watching your SSD reviews and a bit of research, I decided to use the 520 series, 240 gig. It's a great drive for laptops. After all of these information, can you basically explain the process? How do you create a bootable SSD? Okay, so if you do buy 520, it should definitely fit in your laptop. You give me the model down here, and yeah, it should work no problem. That actually comes with a basic version of Acronis True Image. So what you will want to do is just use that tool that comes in the box and image your. It will create an image of your hard drive over to the SSD, and I'm assuming you have less than 240 gigs of data on your current drive. So that will basically handle the upgrade process for you, and then you just put the hard drive the new SSD in place of the hard drive, and away you go. As far as putting the hard drive into the optical drive slot, unless your laptop has the ability to do that, that's not something that you're going to be able to do. Rather than put it in the optical, if you can't do that, I'm assuming that's not going to be an option for you, but you could easily get a very small 2.5-inch hard drive enclosure, and then you can kind of turn that into like a little portable USB hard drive. Is from Charles. It says, "Hi, my name is Charles. I have a 13-year-old son who is excited on building his first computer. I was thinking that it might be a good idea of making a video so you can post it." So Charles, we haven't done that here before, and there's a couple of reasons why. I mean, this is YouTube, so you could easily post a video yourself, and we'd be happy to reference it or give a link to you. So that's probably the easiest way. But but I'm going to leave this open as a question open to the community as a whole. Would you like to see maybe like a special edition video every now and then of builds in the wild? If you guys put together a new build, you send us a little bit of footage on it, you talking about your build, and we'll wrap all those up into a 30-minute video or something like that. If that's something you guys are interested in, I'm not really sure, so just let me know. Okay, the last question is from Fort Lavalley. What would be the parts used in your dream machine if you had no spending limit? Well, Fort, I am really glad that you asked, because we have a giveaway going on. That's right. Motherboards.org is doing another giveaway. We have lots of giveaways because they are awesome. But this is a cool one. This is the Design the Ultimate PC Challenge. So we are going to give away a $400 grand prize. All you have to do is come to the site, there's a link in the video description, and define what you believe is the ultimate PC. How you define ultimate is up to you, and that's what's going to make this kind of fun. So you will take us through your build. What are the things that you want to put into it, and give us a reason why you think it's ultimate. And we've already gotten several, like 300 submissions. So you can enter in more than one build, but get them in, because we're gonna probably leave it open for maybe another 2 or 3 weeks. So come and submit your build, and then we're gonna narrow it down to like 10 builds that I think represent a wide variety of the ultimate definition. Remember, ultimate doesn't necessarily have to mean ultimate in gaming. So just come up with why you think it's the ultimate. Ultimate small, ultimate whatever, And we're going to put those on the site for everyone to check out, and then we're going to have everybody vote on which build wins. So we will narrow it down to a reasonable number to look through, and you guys will come back and you will vote on which one is the ultimate winner. It will be a lot of fun. There is a lot of cool builds coming over. I got to tell you, it's been really interesting seeing a lot of these. So check that out. $400 on the line here, okay? 400. That is a lot of dough. Check that out, and I'm going to wrap up the user question video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me your feedback if you want us to do more of these. That'd be great. So while you're here, click on the links in the video description to check out all this stuff, and subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Motherboards.org. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Motherboards.org. So on behalf of everyone here, I'm Matt. Thanks for watching. So we were also going to be doing a giveaway with, there was also